Okay, continue where we left off about carrying on Shabbos. To show how severe carrying is, we know that when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, the Chachamim said, even though biblically you blow shofar, Rosh Hashanah Shabbos you blow shofar. The Torah doesn't say on Shabbos you don't blow shofar. The Rabbi Chachamim came along and they said that you don't blow shofar when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos. Why not? Because you might come to carry the shofar. Not everybody knows how to blow shofar. They're going to go to the expert to teach them how to blow, and they're going to end up carrying the shofar on Shabbos. So you see how the Chachamim made decrees that in order that a person should chas v'sholom come to carry, and that's why biblically when Sukkot falls on Shabbos you do lulav and esrog. Chachamim said you don't, because you might come to carry on Shabbos. Same thing with the Chachamim said, according to our calendar, Purim can never be Shabbos, but in Yerushalayim it could be Shabbos. This past year, Purim was Friday. Okay, so that means in Yerushalayim they would celebrate Purim and Shabbos. But again, the Chachamim said you don't read the Megillah on Purim Shabbos. Why? Because you might end up carrying it. What?
Don't bother me, but you blow shofar after Nila.
On Yom Kippur, you mean? But that's not the mitzvah of shofar. That's a custom. That's a custom, and it's not the mitzvah of blowing shofar. In other words, there's no mitzvah to blow shofar at the end of Yom Kippur. It's a custom to show that the Shekhinah is leaving and Yom Kippur is over and we're forgiven. But the Chum took away a mitzvah. That is, you don't need an expert to blow because it's one sound. Here you have to blow Tekiah, Shvarim, Teruah, Tekiah. You have to know the length of each one, and it's a complicated. It's just a blow. It's not a big deal. Okay, so now, 2 days ago, we started learning what happens if somebody walks out of the house on Shabbos, they realize they have something in their pockets. Okay, so we said the worst thing you could do is stop. Because when you stop, then you're putting it down. So what should you do? Number one, you continue walking. And ideally, you put it down in a not normal fashion. In other words, either while you're still walking, either you drop it as you're walking, which is not the normal way of putting something down while you're walking, and together with this, continue. Or we said the other thing the other day, that if you find a mokum p'tur, that means a place that's not 4 tvachim wide, it's not 12 inches wide, and you put it down on there, so then it's not a problem. But that shows how important the concept of carrying is. What?
Yesterday we learned that if you stop in order to fix the shift, the load that was shifted, is that called stopping?
Correct.
Why is it stopping and the light stopping?
No, because you're not stopping in order to walk. In other words, a person's walking, like we learned last night, the Monday night class. When a person is walking and he needs to fix the load to be able to continue walking, that's part of the walking process. Stopping at a red light is not part of the walking process. You have to stop because cars are coming. You have a red light, or they might come. So it's different when you stop at a red light versus you stopping to fix a package, which that itself is actually part of the walking process. If you stop to take a break, to rest, that's called stopping. Okay. By the way, once you put the object on the floor, on Shabbos, you can't pick it up and take it home because they'll again be carrying. If it's very expensive, so you realize you have a very expensive piece of jewelry, whatever, so then you could either stand there for the whole Shabbos and guard it, or sometimes it says in Halacha, the Mishnah at the end of Shabbos, that you can ask a goy to bring it home. And the reason for that is, the Gemara says an interesting rule, Adam bohol al mamayne. A person is very nervous when it comes to money, or objects of money. If we're not going to have a goy carry it home, we'll do it himself. Chum said, let's do the lesser of the evils. And because it's only rabbinically forbidden anyway, so the same Chacham that forbid it said, in this case, you can have a guy carry the things home.
Can you kick it less than 4 hours to a stable place?
Can you kick it less than 4 amas?
Kick it with shingle.
You can move it to a safe place less than 4 amas, if it's less than 4 amas away. But you have to be careful when you kick, because kicking, a lot of times you kick better than you think you did. And you'll end up kicking it more than 4 amas, and then you actually carry it in the street.
How do you ask it going to carry it? Directly or indirectly?
The best is indirectly to ask the guy. But the Mishnah says you can ask a guy to do it, but better is indirectly. Because then you're not actually telling the guy to sin for you. You're telling him, you're just saying it's dark in here. You're not saying turn on the light. You just tell him it's dark in here. So then you didn't tell him to do something forbidden.
So there is a diamond ring on the floor. Do somebody carry it? How would you say that indirectly?
You mean you find it on the floor, or it's your ring?
On my ring.
No.
And you put it there because you don't want to carry it. How do you tell going to carry it?
Well, sometimes you may be able to put it on and wear it home. Okay, but let's not talk about a ring. In that case, you're allowed to tell the guy clearly, do me a favor. We'll learn now another din, which can be very practical, by the way. I mean, we started discussing it, but not with kids going on a sit-down strike in the middle of the street. Middle of Wilshire Boulevard. You're crossing Wilshire Boulevard, and all of a sudden the kid goes on a sit-down strike. They refuse. They refuse to budge. What do you do? Okay. Anyway, now we learned already. There's a rule in halacha. A living person carries themselves. Therefore, there's a difference halachically if it's a person who's not able to walk, i.e. a baby under 1, let's say, okay, where they're not able to walk, so then the din is they're not carrying themselves. Carrying themselves applies to a person who is able to walk and you're carrying them. So what's the din if somebody is not able to walk and you carry them? Then it's biblically prohibited on Shabbos. If it's a public domain, or from public to private, private to public, or 4 amas in a public domain. But if they're able to walk themselves, so then the din is, because a living person partially carries themselves, it's like 2 people, if you carry them, it's like 2 people did that work. Well, we learned before, if 2 people pick up this book, therefore they're both only rabbinically forbidden because it's not the normal way of doing it. Now, a person who's able to walk and a person carries them, so then it's rabbinically forbidden, but it's still forbidden. Not only in a public domain, but even in a private domain. It's forbidden, rabbinically forbidden. So 1 second. What happens if a kid goes, like we said, on a sit-down strike in the middle of the street? You're walking home, the kid, there's no, again, we're talking a situation where there's no aid, right? Kid parks himself in the street, and that's it. So what you're allowed to, there's a few options. Number 1, you can ask a guy to carry the kid home. You can ask the guy to carry the kid home. Secondly, if that's not possible, if there's a number of Jews around, each Jew should carry the baby less than 6 feet. Carry less than 6 feet, put it down, next one takes it, less than 6 feet, next one takes it, okay? Or if you have even 2 people, you carry 5.5 feet, next guy carries 5.5 feet, then you carry 5.5, just switch off. What happens even if there's one guy, only one guy, one parent, and the kid's going on a sit-down strike. So then the parent could pick up the kid, walk less than 4 amas, stop, less than 4 amas until they get home. Now ideally when the kid gets home, you try to convince the kid to get into the house. But what happens if the kid refuses? So now you have a public domain to a private domain. So how are you going to get the kid over that threshold, so to speak?
Leave him there.
Huh?
Just leave him there.
Leave him there. Some parents would love to, especially at that time. But then the din is like this, because you can't carry the kid into the street, into the house, because then you're carrying from the public domain to the private domain. But if somebody in the house, and this is again only rabbinically forbidden, if somebody in the house sticks their hands outside, see, outside the window, and you in the street put the kid into the person's hands, and then the person brings the kid in, so that's only rabbinically forbidden. Because you're not doing the whole malach. Remember, the whole entire carrying is picking it up, carrying it, and putting it down. Right? If you don't, and here, if I'm giving it to somebody who has their hands stretched out in the street, so they're not picking it up.
That's not putting it down?
No, because their hands are out the window, let's say in the street, right? Or out the door in the street. If they would be in the house and I would put it into their hands, yeah, that's putting it down in the house. But here they're putting their hands out. So because it's the first mission Shabbos. So therefore that's rabbinically forbidden. In this case, the Chachamim allowed to do it.
And so the same thing with the ring?
What the ring?
The ring to the...
If it's very expensive and there's no guy, the best thing, no, then the halachos, you're talking about a person is different, you know, this, some people, you know, like Jack Benny would say, your money or your life, let me think about it, you know. But for a person, they're more lenient and halacha than just valuables. What?
So the case of the 4 amos, the one that is carrying, is it going to hand it over to someone else or put it down?
Put it down?
The other
Because you carried less than 4 amos, it's not called carrying.
person, you put it
Then
down.
the next, it's rabbinically forbidden.
Right.
Because you might come to carry 4 amos.
Right.
But each one does it, you know.
How about handing it over every 4 amos to someone else without putting it down? Is that
Yeah, that, if they're stopped, and you hand it to them, and they, yeah, that you could do
either
also.
that or put it down, they pick up.
Right. What?
If they're stopping and he's the only parent, one person carrying, how long each stop? Maybe 1 second. Right.
I mean, 1 second is not a stop. I mean,
Stops, maybe
5 seconds. As long as you stop.
not like time takes for.
No, you stop. You can have what's called a rolling stop. By a stop sign, when you don't stop, you just keep going. Rolling stop wouldn't be good for this.
California roll.
California.
Huh?
California roll.
California roll. Okay, that's basically it with the carrying. Let's just start the next malach over here, and that is the malach of shearing, cutting wool. Now, shearing wool, we're not farmers, but this din is very, very, very practical in practical halacha. Now, shearing wool is one of the 39 lamet, it's one of the lamites malachas. Now, shearing wool doesn't only mean wool. It means cutting anything that's connected to a body. Like, for instance, if you cut your hair with the scissors, you cut your nails with the scissors, or a clipper, or whatever, on Shabbos, that is biblically forbidden. So malacha guys, you're shearing. Shearing is cutting off something from the person, the animal, that's not actually part of the body. It's something that, like wool, you can cut it off, and the hair you cut off, and nails you cut off. So if it's done with a machine that's designated for cutting, i.e. a scissors, a clipper, or whatever it may be, then you're biblically doing the malacha. If you don't do it the normal way, let's say you bite a nail, you bite your nails, or you pull out hair. You know, so you pull out hair, somebody has a white hair, they want to pull out, that you can't do anyway, even during the week, but a woman could do it. A man's not allowed to do that during the week either, because that's what women do. So it's a woman's garment. Now that's the classic example given in Shulchan Aruch of a man not wearing women's garment, doing women's things. One of them is pulling out white hair from black hair. Or from, huh?
Looking in the mirror.
Well, that doesn't apply today, but pulling out white hair from dark hair does matter today. We learned already in Shulchan Aruch it says a man is not allowed to look in a mirror, period. Why? Because in the old times, mirrors were the women's things to do. Men didn't look in mirrors. So if a man looked in a mirror, it was doing a woman's thing. But later, poskim, right? Nowadays, men look in mirrors maybe even more than the women do. So then it's not called a woman's garment anymore. It's not called a woman's thing because it's all relative to time and place. If women do it or don't do it and so on. What?
When you look at the mirror, then why not fix the pepper? That's it.
Yeah, you're allowed. Today anyway, it says in halacha men are allowed to look in a mirror. But yeah, if a man is looking in a mirror, because even in the Alter Rebbe's times, when the din of a mirror probably still existed, the Alter Rebbe still had a mirror, not a mirror, it was the top of a snuff box that was silver, and he would be able to see if the tefillin are straight or not. So then it was allowed because you're doing it for the mitzvah, you're not doing it to see how you look, which is the woman's thing to do. So that would be allowed. Okay, Renan Mekashim, Dr. Gebach, Dr. Sophie, Rebel, Hampton, Shinamadi, Nachafitz, Man, Sitka, Yagdol,